Ciao, hi, hey, hola, amigos. I'm just going to check I'm live on Facebook as well. So Facebook won't be too long. Come on, Facebook, I was just about saying it. On and welcome to part two, finally, of A.D.H.D Tuesdays, as I called it. Although it's Thursday now, I didn't manage to get past part one for some reason. I don't know where the time went on Tuesday, but I thought I'm going to do a challenge for myself today, which I normally like to do anyway, but I do struggle with it. And the challenge is I'm going to try, partly because I've got so many plans and I want to get things done. I want to go to a script writers group, but I've got all these different plans. I wish I had more time and energy and whatnot. I mentioned recently I might have ADHD, but I'm not sure. But I do have lots of ideas and not enough time, so that could be an ADHD trait. I'm not sure. I said I don't know if it's too greedy to have so many emergent conditions or whatever, or atypical conditions or whatever you want to call them. But anyway, talking about getting to a point, I'll try and get them to 10. I wonder if I can get my videos down to 10 minutes or less today. So I want to finish off. I did want to do ADHD Thursdays, but I'm not going to get around to that. I'm running low on time, so I'm going to try and do part 2, 3 and 4 of Tuesday, and also 3 and 4 of Wednesday, all being well, in that order. So yeah, talking of which, these are pointers number 11 to 20. I know I waffle on with what I call nice life stories, but anyway, here goes. So point number 11, I would love to change the perception of ADHD, as I often mention, like change the perception. In this case, I'd love to I guess both Tuesday and Thursday start with T. So I talked about like ADHD has got talent or whatever. I'm sure I mentioned that before. I was going to get to it. I'm not sure. I'm sure I did mention it in part one. But yeah, I do sort of vaguely remember it. I think in point number 8. But yeah, ADHD has got talent, and or maybe I talked about it with autism. But anyway, ADHD has got talent and that kind of thing, and changing perception. So showing what ADHDers can do with their energy, and maybe what they can invent and invest in and work on, ADHD entrepreneurs and that kind of thing. Some people call it a superpower even in business and things like that. So utilising their energy for good, like getting ADHDers out of crime and criminality, to always obey the law, hopefully even to be a part of peace projects, anti-war, not joining militaries or gangs or terrorism or anything violent, anything like militaries, gangs, terrorism, or anything violent or illegal or whatever. Yeah, I do struggle to get to the point, I know, but yeah, in the classroom or in work, I mentioned it can be a challenge, but in business or other areas, it can be really good. But myself, I know I mentioned I'm really lazy, but I guess I like to do fun work or what I find interesting and fun. I know I've gone through like smart work and that kind of thing, so if it doesn't feel like hard work and it feels a lot better. But like when it comes to chores, I suppose taking the bins out doesn't take that long, but things like cleaning, tidying up, I'm a bit messy anyway. But so I do feel a bit hypocritical to say like, it depends what you class as productive work. Maybe people can discuss what is productive work for people to do, including those with ADHD, or people generally, as I say, but especially those with ADHD, as I say. But moving on to point number 12, I know I can talk all day, but I'd say using that energy for the greater good, like how ADHDers can build businesses, invent things. Actually, I forgot to say point number 11. I knew there's something. There was 1 or 2 other points I can mention, but again, trying to get the video done in a short amount of time. What if ADHDers could invent robots that do all the rubbishy work, to put it politely, the things we don't want to do, to free us up to the things we do want to do? What if people with ADHD, autism, and related conditions can invent those things? I mean, you'd make a lot of money, I'm sure, if you sold those. I know they're already kind of robots and things like that, but trying to make them work a lot easier, and like people to have their own personal robots, like an iRobot, which can do all the work we don't want to do. I call it all the SHITs, and I don't mean as in all the rubbishy, can I say this word? I'm going to say it anyway, but crappy kind of jobs. But yeah, so But yeah, also what ADHDers can teach each other and learn from each other. Number 13, what are some of the troubles facing ADHDers? Number 14, how can they troubleshoot? How can they tackle those troubles? I'm thinking what's again. But yeah, troubleshooting, solving problems, that kind of. Number 15, a lot of people with atypical conditions are good at solving problems because I suppose we have to, I'm not sure about myself, but we have to find ways around even the most simple things. I've got to admit, like I say, I don't like DIY gardening or anything like that. I think that's with my dyspraxia. I'm really rubbish at those things. I think I struggle enough with other areas in life, so I think that's another thing to learn. I'll probably forget it the next day or whatever. Whereas some people with ADHD probably do love gardening and stuff like that. Always have to do something to keep themselves busy, so they can do things that are productive. Like they can probably build areas in gardening or DIY or building or different areas. Although building is a very dangerous area, but I have a mad dream about many mad dreams about, like, for instance, atypical people, including ADHDers, again, neurodivergent, whatever you want to call us. Generally speaking, I could connect with them through the atypical group, even if I don't have ADHD. But I hope so anyway. But I'd love for us to network together and like build businesses and invest together and that kind of thing. But yeah, I love to support ADHDers with their ambitions and how to use their talents to reach their goals, aims, and objectives, and hopefully reach their potential as well. As they say. What I wanted to do today, what I wanted to do that is today, to be clear, is like I wanted to wake up earlier, but I do struggle to sleep and I struggle to wake up. I struggle to push myself to sleep, and sometimes I like to stay up at night, but I probably should go to sleep earlier because the next day I'm really tired. But the main thing is, I suppose, the reason why I want to try and get up earlier is just to have more energy to work on my ideas. Again, sometimes I wonder if that means I don't have ADHD, otherwise I have more energy, perhaps, more than likely. But that's something I want to say about, but I'm not going to say that right now because I'm failing at my initiative of trying to get there this video in the shortest amount of time possible. But also say all the points. And that's a challenge. But yeah, ADHDers and other atypical people, again, including autistics and others with related conditions, can work together in tech, business, banking, tech, and all sorts of areas like that. Yeah, I lost my chain of thought. Yeah, reaching their full potential and network together. Something else I'm saying I've completely forgotten. I'm going to move on to point number 16, which is what do you think could help? What do you think are the most empowering things potentially for ADHDers? I'd love for people to get involved in the comments. I can always ask that, but please do comment. I really appreciate that. I'm sure people with ADHD who need to be empowered would really appreciate that. Well, yeah, that was it. I wanted to wake up early. I might say it's a point number 21, as I say, 21 again. But yeah, I know I start points and then move on to other things. So maybe I do have ADHD after all. I should take the test at some point if I get organised enough to take an official test. But I don't want to be a fool and say I have ADHD if I don't or whatever. Yeah, I think there's some really good things about ADHD and lots of energy and lots of great entrepreneurs, I'm sure. I don't have statistics on such, but a lot do have ADHD. I know they say like people with conditions like ADHD and dyslexia are more likely to set up businesses because it's an easier way to control your environment and things like control your destiny, control your environment, and that kind of thing. Obviously, neurotypical people can also do that, but certain businesses for that reason. But I think if you are atypical or neurodivergent, you're more likely to do so. But again, I'd love to know what tips, maybe people with ADHD who have found ways, coping mechanisms or whatever, can talk about what tips you use. Do you recommend medication or not? Do you recommend utilizing the energy you have in a certain way, or whatever it might be? Again, what are the most potentially empowering things for ADHD people, ADHDers, as I say. Number 17, one I was really thinking of saying is, and I think the main point about what I put in the description on YouTube, I forgot to put it, I didn't get around to putting it on Facebook, as time is against me. I'm very disorganized when it comes to time. Again, potentially ADHD trait, but is, and again, going from one point to the other and forgetting my chain of thought, that's probably a dyslexia trait or an ADHD trait, or both, I'm not sure. But is, could you imagine if there was an ADHD millionaires network, or even an ADHD billionaires network, or even an ADHD trillionaires network in the future? Again, going alliterations. Now, I'm into philanthropy, I normally say, but I I think it would be pretty cool if there was those things. I know I mentioned a few times that it's what I call, I failed at my initiative, but keeping it down to 10 minutes. Good job there's a clock there, to be honest, but just give me some sort of guide to know I'm waffling on. Otherwise, the videos would probably be even longer. But anyway, talking of which, but yeah, if I'd love to create what I call Trillionaires networks. So I don't know, I mentioned this before, but like groups of people who are either millionaires or billionaires, or in the future maybe even trillionaires, or even quadrillionaires. That's pushing it a bit, but the thought that millionaire or billionaire has illionaire in common, or even trillionaires would have illionaire in common. I guess in the past it used to make me all think about money too much. But again, I know I said I'm into philanthropy. I'm not really about materialistic. That probably sounds like I'm materialistic. I'm not mentioned before, but I'd just love to see what it could achieve and how it could inspire people and how it can invest in other ADHDs in this case. But yeah, I'd love to have them for all different types of groups, like black millionaires, black billionaires, or even black trillionaires in the future, Asian, or as a mixed race person, I want it. Like, obviously, a white person would probably be called racist if this, but even a white version, or whatever. Anyway, I'm going into a difficult area, but yeah, if I had like 10% of the equity, I'd love to found those groups and have 10% of the equity, and then give that away to what I call my 5 causes. But I know I've mentioned that in the past, I say. But yeah, could you just imagine that and what they could achieve? I know they say Elon Musk might become the first trillionaire, and then there might be many others who follow in the future. I suppose it's like what there used to be like millionaires, and then we get billionaires with tech and all that, especially, and then with tech again, it could be trillionaires in the future or whatever. But yeah, I suppose obviously anti-capitalist, socialist, communist, and whatnot would say that's a really bad thing. I suppose you could say the gap between rich and poor would be a really bad thing. But again, if I could create those networks, if I could make or create or set up those networks, or be part of those networks and have like the trademark protection to have like 10% of those networks, and they made loads of money, I would be able to give like 20% of that to tackling poverty. But yeah, that was one of the main points I wanted to make, I guess, or the main point. But moving on to 18, again, I wonder if that would inspire others, and if ADHDs are inspired by millionaires or even billionaires in the future, if there would be like trillionaires or celebs or whatever with ADHD. And I'd love to know from ADHDs out there which person inspires you the most. It could be family members or whatever. I know I've asked that in the previous video, but number 19, I wonder how ADHD affects tech, like programming, software development, coding, and things like that, or just tech generally. I wonder if it helps or hinders, or does it depend on the individual or whatever. And number 20, I'd say business, banking, tech, and all those sorts of areas. And damn it, I'm on the 13th minute, which one means I have failed in my initiative to keep it to 10 minutes or less, and secondly, I find 13 unlucky, but I'll probably try and keep it up to 14 minutes just for that reason. But yeah, I'd say I'd love to know what you think, if there was an ADHD millionaires or even billionaires or even trillionaires network in the future. What do you think could be some of the cons and pros of that? Like, again, anti-capitalist, socialist, communist, and whatnot would say that'd be a really bad thing. Maybe they could say why. I guess the gap between rich and poor is growing, unfortunately, because I'm thinking of those at the bottom. And I guess it sounds like I can understand people saying it's a greedy idea or whatever, but as I say, if I had 10% of the equity of those networks, I would give them the profits to those 5 causes I've talked about in the past. But anyway, I'll pass the 14th minute mark, and on that note, I'm out and peace love, and I can waffle all day. I wonder if that's an ADHD trait.